Welcome to the Going North podcast, where you will be encouraged, informed, and empowered to embrace your dreams and advance in life through authorship. I'm your host, bestselling author, certified leadership trainer, and book enthusiast Dom Brightman. Be sure to check out the goods and services for every guest, as well as some of the books from yours truly, the host. Now let the fun begin. And today on the Going North podcast, where it's another round of the hashtag C2H crappy to happy crew, baby. That's right. Crappy to happy crew, baby, because my goodness, we got another fabulous author who is from the awesome best-selling book on the show today, folks. Got a treat for you. My goodness. For those who've seen the Kill Bill movie and you head over to this lady's website, you'd be like, oh gosh, she's a real life. Like, oh man, better not piss her off. But don't worry, she's not like that. She's actually really friendly, because this wonderful lady right here, shamanic practitioner, as well as a somatic experiencing trauma therapist, SCP, who brings years of comprehensive training and knowledge to her work. This fabulous lady right here studied and apprenticed with native and other master teachers in Europe, the US of A, and throughout all of the Latin America. And this wonderful lady right here draws her extensive experience with multiple modalities such as energy healing, ceremonial work, and trauma therapy to create an individual plan for each client's healing and spiritual development. So let's give it up for Ms. JL herself, Ms. Judy Lemon. How you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, despite being in the oven of the country, I'm hot, baby. I'm doing great.
There you go. In more ways than one, I bet, right?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Well, as with all ovens, there's so much stuff you can put inside of an oven, like an introduction. So mind filling in any cavities I may have missed about the jubilant Judy?
No, I think that was, my little bit of a blurb in a nutshell. I have been spending these past few years crafting my business, which I call somatic spiritual healing. I am primarily the shamanic practitioner that you mentioned, and I've been doing that for well over 20 years. I learned somatic experiencing probably some 4 or 5 years ago, because not everybody resonates with pure shamanic work. Sometimes shamanic work can be a little weird for some people, but the biggest thing is my biggest clientele are women who've been through sexual abuse. It's rampant. I understand now what my parents were trying to protect my sister and me from. So I learned this SE set of techniques to mainly work with them, but then I realized it's actually very shamanic. So I've been spending these past years blending it into something that works for each person that comes in. And I continue to study, once you start diving into the world of mysticism and stuff, there's no bottom. You just keep on swimming through. So I've been doing what I've been doing for a while, but there's still more to learn. I'm ever the student.
There you go right there. And that's the mindset to have, is to have a student mindset, because we're always learning and we always have to grow. Usually better by choice or by default, and usually the earth isn't, or just the universe isn't so nice when we have to do it by default.
Yeah.
But my goodness, you did bring up an important point about what your parents are protecting you from, and it's really a shame that it's really been running rampant still in 2020. It's like you feel like as decades and years go on, it feels like some things shouldn't still be a problem, but they still seem to be. So any thoughts on that from your experience with the folks that you've helped over the years and still help?
It's a little heartbreaking for me to see the sheer number of people who've experienced sexual abuse at the hands of a family member. I'm not talking about strangers, it's a family member, and lots of times it's intergenerational. With a woman, it might be her mother and her grandmother have also experienced that. So I think that maybe the reason we see that it's more rampant now is because people are talking about it more. Like in my mother's generation, my parents were World War II vets. You didn't talk about that. You know, it was like shove it under the rug, or yes, it happened, but don't tell the neighbors. Whereas I think now, particularly with the younger women, they're saying, I'm going to come out and talk about this because I need healing. And I think the fact that more people are coming forward to be healed is helping a lot, because it's, from my trauma therapist point of view, you definitely want to get some kind of help, you know, rather than carrying that kind of energy around with you through your life.
Oh yeah, because folks are going to be needing that help, and heck, even earlier in this podcast, I had a couple guests who actually went through that tragic experience of being sexually assaulted by a family member or someone they knew for a long time, and it's just really disheartening that that's happened to them, and that is of their own family, no less.
I know. Yeah. You know, so, I mean, I'm definitely not hardened to it, but because it's so prevalent in my practice, you know, I do have to learn not to take it on and react strongly. You know, this is where the shamanic part comes in too, because as a shamanic practitioner, we're starting to work in the other dimensions and we're working with spirits. So as soon as you start working in multi-dimensional worlds, you need to learn about psychic protection. What am I going to let in? What am I going to keep out? And it's the same kind of a thing, because at the end of it, it's all energy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're definitely right about that, especially we're really just energetic spiritual beings. And I feel like a lot of people are starting to finally get a hold of that and starting to learn a bit more about it too. So that's really great. So out of curiosity, is that why you have a machete in the photo on your website, to protect yourself against morons?
Jungle, yeah, jungle things. When I did my first apprenticeship with my first teacher, we were actually living deep in the Amazon jungle. We were not in a camp. So I had to learn very quickly about what kind of things that you need in order to survive in the jungle. And a machete is one of the essential pieces of equipment, as well as knee-length rubber boots. So even though I hadn't used a machete before, for some reason I became sort of like King Arthur pulling out the sword from the stone. You got this big blade going on, and you know, there I was, a sort of geeky white woman with all these native guys, but I loved whacking things with a machete. You know, sometimes as we're like going through the underbrush, you have to cut your way through. I had encounters with poisonous snakes at night, and the machete comes in handy for that kind of a thing. And then, you know, as I continued my apprenticeship, part of which is to work on ourselves, our stuff comes up, and I would get really frustrated. Like I'd get mad at my teachers and mad at this or whatever. So I'd go find a dead tree, and I would take my machete and I'd just like whack, 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 whack. So I just thought like, hey, I'm just going to call myself Machete Woman, because, you know, how many other women in Southern California are going around whacking things with a jungle tool? Yeah, like I said, you got to have a sense of humor.
Oh yeah, with all the pennies, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, quarters too, maybe some dimes as well.
Well, as long as the U.S. Treasury doesn't get rid of our change, I don't know if we're still having a change shortage. I think a little while ago we had a change shortage, which is like, what? This year has been so strange that I'm waiting for the mothership to come down and just suck this whole planet up and just think, all right, we're done. We're going to start over again. Whoop, 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 whoop. I mean, what else is going to happen next? That shouldn't happen.
There you go. It'll be a dream come true for some of the folks. Be like, yes, we're falling in the mothership. I knew y'all existed.
Yeah, yeah. Over here. Don't forget me.
It's like, please don't probe me though. I'm right here, but don't probe me. I'm
I
good.
know, yeah. Oh gosh.
Oh my goodness, awesome indeed. So really being down in the jungle like that, cutting through basically through the jungle and really protect yourself against poisonous snakes. Like, so did you have any fear? What actually, better yet, what led you to make that trip to that discovery? Because that's not something that folks usually think about every day.
It's not something that I plan to do with my life either. The short bit of this, which is this is like what I put in my book Machete Woman, which is the one that will be coming out. I was living in London, trying to be a rock star. I was a professional musician here in California for a long time. I'd always dreamed of being a rock star and going to England. So I at least got to do that. Not the rock star part, but at least trying to do it in a different country. But I started getting interested in the structure of the universe. And one day I saw this ad for a class in ceremonial magic taught by a male witch at a magic shop in Covent Garden that looks something straight out of Harry Potter. It really was like that world actually exists because I've lived in it. And I mean, the physical as well as the spiritual. And in one of the classes, a man came in and he told us, he goes, "Oh, I've just been to the jungle and I did a plant spirit retreat with ayahuasca." And I had no idea what he was talking about. But the minute he said the word ayahuasca, the word kind of like went into my heart center. And all I heard was, "Don't worry about this now, sometime in the future." And I went, okay. Fast forward, my marriage fell apart. My life in London fell apart. I came back to the United States to heal, got my divorce settlement. And then I heard, "And no, you're going to the jungle." And I went, okay, this is how I live my life. I listen to the guidance and then I just go forward. And that's why I get to have all these great adventures. So I did a plant spirit retreat, just like the guy in my class did. And in that retreat, I met my first teacher, Javier. And because I also speak a bit of Spanish, I was able to speak to the shamans who were running the retreat. And I said, "Oh, I'm interested in being a healer." I didn't exactly know what kind, but he said, "Oh, well, I'm looking for an apprentice. If you'd like to come back and live in the jungle with me, I will teach you my path." Me being completely naive, not knowing what it was, I thought like, "Oh, wow, that sounds neat." I thought I was like Carlos Castaneda finding Don Juan. I didn't realize it was like living in the deep jungle with the humidity and the bugs. I mean, so far outside of my comfort zone. But I did it, and by the time I finished that first phase of my apprenticeship to what they call coronation, where the teacher will put his leaf crown on you, that signifying that you've gone through a certain phase. He said, "I didn't think you were going to make it." Because, I was always complaining about the bugs. Like I had bugs under my skin. I was so uncomfortable the whole time. It was more uncomfortable than fear. But like, I thought, you know what? This is my opportunity. I financed this expedition. I am not going to quit. No matter how uncomfortable I am not going to give up. Because if I turn around and go home and go back to my air-conditioned place, I will always be running away from something. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to keep doing it, if it's just like minute by minute. And I remember at the end, like Javier told me, he and his friends were actually taking bets on when I would leave. I didn't know that. I was so indignant. I was so indignant. And I was like, "Well, I showed you, didn't I?" So that's how I ended up there. Basically, I was led there. I did not go looking for it. I followed the call and I ended up there and I realized I like this stuff. I'm strong enough to do this. This is my path.
Ah, there you go. That's what I'm talking about. Some spirit-led goodness. All right. And some male witches. So did you learn any spells?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he was quite a character. Ever since I was a little kid, I was interested in what else lies out from the world, beside what we can see with our physical senses. So as a little kid, like I knew there were fairies out on my lawn. So like as a 7-year-old, I would stand up on my bed to look out the window to see the fairies on the lawn. Most little kids are still connected into the other worlds. So, they're sitting there with their imaginary friends, but to us as children, they're not imaginary. And then as I got into be a rebellious teenager, that's when I first found witchcraft. And I started doing a few little spells as teenage girls, some of them do. And I realized, hey, this stuff works. This is really cool. But there's also a lot of ethics involved in it too, as terms of you don't want to interfere with someone's will. We would consider love spells as a form of sort of black magic, or it's a gray area, because if I cannot get your attention in the physical world, it's your will that you don't want to be with me. So if I try to bamboozle you with brilliance and starlight and stuff, that's, taking over your will. So we would consider that a form of black magic. So you have to be careful to consider the ethics of, what kind of energy you're moving, how is it going to affect people? And it's the same thing with shamanic healing. They're actually very similar because you're using your visualization, empowering, and belief systems to change the physical through the energetic. But, when I'm doing healing somebody, I ask their permission. Do I have your permission to work on you? And if somebody wouldn't give me permission, then I was like, okay, I can't do anything.
All right. So we got a magic samurai on the podcast today. I didn't know we had a magic swordswoman. This is great. This is great. Oh, this is good. All righty. Well, that's interesting because that's really not my area of expertise, to be honest, for, well, I guess, obvious, not so obvious reasons. I didn't even know that there's actually ethics behind it. So that actually makes pretty much good sense. It's like there's actually ethics, be honest, like not interfering with someone's will like that. That's actually good to know. It's like, hey, it's not something that's really trying to ruin someone's life per se. It's like actually something to possibly benefit someone.
Yeah, where I learned a lot, I've spent years and years in the jungles with my teachers, and the scene down there is very different than it is up here. There's a lot of witchcraft, hexing, and black magic. So my first teacher had to teach me some of that. And when he first brought it up, I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is not the direction that I'm going in. I'm what we would call a curandera. Like I work for the light. I'm not a bruja for the dark. And he goes, oh, yes, Judita, but you need to know what this looks like and what it feels like, because you're going to get clients who have been hexed, and you need to be able to recognize it and to be able to undo it. And there's me thinking like, we don't deal with that kind of stuff in America, but I'm dealing with a lot of it right now. So not everybody, let's just say not everybody who manipulates magic or energy is ethical about it.
Yeah, it can make sense because a lot of folks are, I guess in a way, it's kind of been somewhat of a spiritual or another dimension sort of awakening recently over these past few years where folks are starting to get more knowledge since folks have been diving deep into just basically their curiosities, and going down the rabbit hole of curiosity leads you to so many different places.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, be careful what you ask for, because lots of times I will work with somebody, say, like a young girl who wants to be a healer or whatever, and she might come in and she'll say, like, oh, I really want to see the spirits, I really want this vision, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, like, okay, but be careful what you ask for, because there are also people who have those doors open who don't want it. And I have a friend of mine who's a Qigong master, and we talk about a lot of this stuff about dealing with what we might call the shadow side or the dark side and stuff like that. And she goes, I don't even deal with that deep possession stuff anymore, because she goes, once you do, the spirits just bug you all night long. And she goes, and I won't sleep. And then you start hearing like knocks on the wall or like somebody saying your name. It's like, come on, guys, I'm in my physical body. I need some sleep tonight.
No, you don't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're not in the physical world, so like they don't know about sleep or the need for money or our self-imposed time, our linear time. They're not in linear time, so like for them, it's like, oh well, let's have a party right now. Doesn't matter if she's sleeping or not.
That's right. It's like paranormal activity, except it might be the Tupac version. Let's play some loud rap music, throw some stuff you probably hate to hear.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Please, guys, keep it down tonight. Yeah.
Nah, Judy wanted to be a rock star. We're gonna make her dream come true in reverse. It'll be a nightmare. We'll be the rocks and the stars, and she's trying to get some sleep.
Yeah. You better watch out. I'll start singing.
Oh man. Well, what brought you back to America after the apprenticeship? Because I feel like somewhat, I mean, well, actually, in a way, since you were in London, what actually brought you to America? Since I guess you're not originally from America, right?
No, I am. I was born here, but I think as a child, I was so enamored with the Arthurian legends. I wanted to go to Tintagel and go around and see if I could find Camelot. And then as I became a teenager, a lot of the big rock bands were British. And then once I started to get into music, I wanted to emulate them. And then I started getting this dream of like going to England. And so I went over there twice on a visit, like to kind of see like, could I live here? Could I make this happen? And the third time I went over on a one-way ticket, and I brought like all of my musical stuff with me. And I spent a lot of time, like, I worked with some really good musicians, and I had my own recording studio, and I was married to an Englishman, and I had a very, very good, rich life for a long time. But it wasn't the life that I was meant to lead. I was meant to be doing what I am now. So basically, what happened sort of around the end of the 90s, Spirit just pulled the rug out from underneath. My husband decided to go off with a more normal woman, one who wanted to be more of like have a traditional sort of a marriage, I think, like his parents had. And then, everything fell apart. So my family was still here. So my mom said, you can come back here and put your life back together, for which I am eternally grateful, because that's exactly what I did. So it was once I came back here and healed my body, that's when I really got into shamanism, because I started the apprenticeship about 5 years after I arrived back in this country. So I'd learned about a little bit about it while I was still in England, but it wasn't until I was back here that the doors really started opening. It's like, okay, you're now here. We're going to start teaching you. Here it goes. And I've been going ever since.
Beautiful indeed. Beautiful indeed. Been going ever since. And so I guess after coming back to America, moving back in with the mom being restored again. So what was been next for you? Because I know you have these magical extended version of the Crappy to Happy story coming out after the book itself. Because I know there's still some
Oh
more stuff that
yeah,
awaits.
I'm kind of just going along for the ride with this. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say my goal in life is to be an author, although I have been writing stories since I was 7 years old. You know, as a kid, I had all these guinea pigs, so I turned them into like cartoon characters and wrote mystery stories about them. And I still have all of those childish books. But I never really thought like, oh, I want to be an author. But then my apprenticeship was so wild that I have another author friend who said, you need to write that book. So he was a presence in my life. He's a very well-known shamanic author. And just the fact that he kept checking in with me, he held me accountable. And then all of a sudden, I got the book written. So basically then what happened is I didn't have it edited with like I just sent it to Sacred Stories, and Ariel Patricia said, it would be good if you work with a developmental editor. But hey, we've got this anthology coming out, Crappy to Happy. Maybe you'd like to contribute a story. And I think at that point it was like was it the end of April? And the original deadline was April 30th. And I had like one day, and this was before they extended it. And I went, I can do this. I'm not going to miss this opportunity. Like when I see a window, I dive. So I pulled out a story, like my story for Crappy to Happy is called The Magic Tree. And it's about something that happened in my extended apprenticeship with my current teacher, Luis, when he put me out in the jungle at night to do a ceremony for the spirits. And that story was accepted. And like, I was just so excited. I was running around the house because I didn't see that coming. You know, I thought like, I'm going to put out this memoir called Machete Woman, Tales of Resilience and Rebirth. And then all of a sudden I'm going to be a published author in October. I went, wow, how did I get there? So I have no idea where this is going. I just like I said, when the spirit opens a door, I just quickly like, I'm going through it.
There we go.
Yeah, you know, so basically I'm building up my business now. I'm seeing a lot more clients. I'm probably stepping more into a teacher's role because as I meet more people, they say like, I want to learn how to speak to my guides, for example. I want to learn how it feels like when you have you're talking with a good spirit. I want to learn about psychic protection. So I need to up my game as far as like social media, getting myself out there a bit more. But I still love my core healing work. Sitting one-on-one with somebody and seeing the change in them from when they come in, and then when we're done with the session, they're walking a little bit brighter, a little bit happier, making a change in somebody's life. So I didn't turn out to be the engineer my parents wanted me to be, but I think they're proud of me anyway.
Ah, there you go. Maybe not an engineer on the earth, but an engineer at something else in a different way, right?
Yes. Well, my mom was a medevac nurse, and my dad was a navigator, and he was an engineer. So I basically took on both of their roles. You know, I'm a healer, protector. But like you said, yeah, I engineer things in the energetic world.
Ah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. That's what I'm talking about. Sweet. So I got the core healing going on with the one-on-one clients and of course the upcoming classes and the courses on other magical goodness. So with all of this stuff, oh my goodness, all this stuff that just keeps on going. Is there going to be another possible trip to Latin America in the future? Because is there more apprenticeship that you can do or?
Yes. I wanted to go this summer, but obviously with the COVID virus thing, I did a lot of traveling last year. I went to Bolivia to study the Quechua language. It's one of the indigenous languages that I sing in. Let's just say I didn't quite master it, but I learned a lot. So I'm hoping to go back to the jungle next year and see my teachers and then maybe even take some people with me. You know, I have another community down there. I have a lot of friends. I miss my teachers. So I'm hoping that if we are allowed to travel and borders open up again, that I will be able to go down there again and go get bitten by a bunch of mosquitoes. No matter how many layers I wear, they still get me. Oh,
I hear you got lemonade.
I guess so. I guess I'm a sweet lemon to them.
They want all of your sugar.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's something I just never get used to.
Yeah, I don't think anyone gets used to that. I don't think anyone really wants to get used to that, to be honest.
No, I know.
Yeah. But of course, as with getting used to things, there are some lessons that are learned in the process. So if you're to wake up tomorrow and you're 25 again, but this time in the current year of 2020 with no pandemic and all of your amassed knowledge and wisdom, what advice would you give to yourself?
I would probably say to grab even more gusto, maybe try a bit harder. Like, I think in retrospect, there could have been more that I could have done in the music business. Who knows? I mean, whether it was meant for me to do that or not. But I think I would have liked to have found the shamanic path sooner. So I think I would have told my younger self, all those interesting books that you read, like the Carlos Castaneda ones, that world exists. Like, get out there and start learning that sooner rather than later. I wonder where I would be had I learned sort of like even 20 years earlier. But then I can't worry about that. This is what was. The other, well, I think I followed the advice of my dad, like to really live this life very well, because they're in spirit now. And, he said, you're going to be back here very soon. So do what you can in the physical, really keep enjoying that, have the adventures, fly the planes, play the guitar, be with the people, do those kind of things. Like, don't waste so much time waiting for something to come to you. Get out there and go get it.
There you go. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Grab it with both hands if you have to. That's right. Grab it with
That's
both arms and
right.
legs if you have to. Make sure it doesn't escape. That's right. There we go. That may be the more advanced version of a love spell, I imagine.
Yes.
Let me stop. That's
You know,
not. At least I don't think it is.
the thing is, if it's meant to be your path, it comes to you very easily. The key is to recognize it. I think this is where a lot of people don't see it. A door opens and they might stand on the outside going, is that what I'm supposed to do? Or, like not sure, or they think they're supposed to be doing something else or whatever. But, when those doors open, it's a good idea to at least walk through it and check out the landscape and see, like, wow, this is a whole new world. I never dreamed I could do stuff like this. As I teach a lot of my students, we in the West tend to put things in a box. I want my life like this kind of car, this house, this much money, and you see it like that. But it may be that outside of the box, there's something so much more that you could have ever imagined. So what we learn to do is we break the walls of the box so that we are able to receive what the universe really has for us. And it's usually so much more magnificent than what this brain can come up with.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So true indeed. So true indeed. Heck. Yep. It's kind of like that whole classic story of going to heaven and it's like, oh, yeah, did you use all your gifts? Yeah, I think I used all of them. And then you realize you're sure. And then you go into this bigger room of all this other stuff that you didn't get to have on the planet because you didn't tap into everything. So darn true.
Yeah.
Big plans for us from the
Yeah.
universe. Big plans indeed.
Yes. Yes. Life is full of wonder and mystery.
Ah, yeah. So for those who don't want Judy to be a mystery anymore and keep up with all that she's doing, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
I think probably from my website. It's just judylemon.com. It has all of my social media addresses on that too, like Instagram, Judy1Lemon, Facebook is Machete Woman. But yeah, probably my website, judylemon.com, because that way they can see all of my current offerings and sign up for a newsletter for whenever I'm developing new classes and things.
There you have it, folks. There you have it. Head over to judylemon.com, folks. Get some of that shamanic lemonade, folks. She's got it for everybody that wants to partake in it, folks, and buy some copies of Crappy to Happy. And be on the lookout for her full solo project, Machete Woman, folks. Are you going to be on the cover of the book? Please say yes.
I haven't gotten that far, but you've probably seen the picture of me with the machete on my Facebook page, because I think we're Facebook friends. I purposely had somebody take a picture of me in the jungle with my machete. So it just depends. I think I should be on the cover, even if it's me in silhouette, because I am Machete Woman. There's nobody else. It's me.
There you go. So there's no Judy Lemon clones. Hopefully you get to see Judy on the cover, and this will be Kill Bill Volume 5. That's right. And there's not even a part 4.
I got to get part 1 out first, because there's a lot more after that.
Oh, good. All right. Probably bigger than a Thanksgiving dinner. So any parting words to the folks still listening, Judy?
I will say something that my dad would always say with us: stay with the happy people. It was a song from their era. I think it was in the 1940s. I can't recall the artist at the moment, but it's such a wonderful piece of advice. Stay with the happy people. Be with those who uplift you. Life is a little challenging right now, so we need everything we can to feel uplifted. So stay with the happy people.
Hey there, you superstar. Thanks a bunch for making it this far in the podcast. Hope you really enjoyed it. Heck, if you made it this far, that means you really enjoyed it. Be sure to shoot the guest an email or head over to the social media pages and leave them a nice response that you heard them on the Going North podcast, so that way they can continue to be inspired to do great things. And be sure to share this podcast with others that you think would enjoy it as well, because we want to inspire as many people as possible to live their dreams, embrace them, and to do something positive.